Welcome to the Lift and Glow Fitness Podcast, the health and fitness podcast for women who want to look great and feel great for good. Whether your goal is to lose weight, build muscle, or you just want to be the healthiest version of yourself, the advice that we share here is going to help you do that by building habits that stick without sucking the fun out of your life. Before we get stuck in today's episode, please make sure to hit subscribe so that you don't miss any future episodes from us. So I thought it would be good for us to talk about how to fit fitness, health into like busy work schedules, because I think a lot of people think that we've just like been born PTs and that we haven't lived like a normal life. Yeah. Like they think that we're just fitness mad and everything we do is about eating healthy and exercise, and it's like what we do constantly. And I think a lot of people don't really know that, like, for 6 years I worked in an office job. They don't know that I traveled for work. They don't know that I had to have meals out and entertain. Like they don't know that I used to work in retail. Like there's all sorts of like things that we can help with because we understand their schedule and what it's like to be them. And obviously, Sammy, you've been a teacher, a midwife.
I worked in a pharmacy.
A pharmacy.
Retail, yeah. And PT. I was going to say, on top of what you just said, I think there's a really big misconception. Like, I used to have it as well. Like, I used to look at, when I was a teacher, for example, and I was doing PT on top of teaching, and I was working like fucking 6 till 9 p.m. at night. And I was like, oh, I just want to do PT full time because I'll have loads of time to train. I train less now than I did as a teacher.
Yeah.
And I think like, people look at PTs and coaches and that, or like you, like obviously when people see you online coaching a lot from home, oh, hey, he's got all the time in the world, but you don't. Like
you're running your own business.
Yeah, you don't. And I think now I find it harder to train because you've got to motivate yourself to train on your own.
Yeah.
Whereas like those 9 to 5 workers have chance to go to classes and stuff, whereas our work time is peak class time.
Yeah.
So I actually find training harder now than what I used to.
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm the same. So when you're working in an office, it's very much like you train early morning or you train in the evening, depending on your schedule. But once you're a PT, like everyone says, oh, it must be so easy for you because you work in a gym. I'd be like, no, it makes it so hard.
Because when you've trained people,
you want to get out of the gym. You want to get out. You're like, you've worked there and you've just been there for that long and you're starving. And it's just like, no, it's much harder to get going. And also your hours are so much longer. So I think there definitely is that belief that like it's easier for us because we're a PT, but actually it definitely got way harder for me. And obviously, Sarah, you worked in law for 20 years. So you know what it's like for people who work in like fast-paced, high pressure, long hours, traveling as well. Yeah. Like, so, and I think a lot of people think like when we're given advice, oh, what about this? What about this? We're just sprouting it from nowhere. No. It's like, no, we've actually lived
and breathed it.
We've lived and breathed it. Like we actually know what it's like to be up the wall 24/7. And in fact, we probably know that more now than ever because we've all done PTing as well as a full-time job. Yeah. So Sammy, you were teaching and you PT'd. I was working in Manchester, full-time office job and PT'd. You were still doing law while PTing and like
until just recent.
That's it. There we go. And it's like every minute of our day was taken up, but we were still able to slot in time for ourselves, no matter how hard it is. So I just thought it'd be interesting to talk about like how do we actually do that? And I think it would be good to know like little strategies for the different types of jobs that you have done. So like shift work, for example, that's not something that I've ever done.
No, and like when I was when I was working full time as a midwife, like I was doing my marathons then, so I was doing a lot of running training on top of shifts, and like that was fucking hard, like doing night shifts, and I'd go to bed. But like you've just got to set yourself a goal. So like I'm sure you all agree, planning. We harp on about, isn't it? Planning is key. So like I'd look at that week and be like, right, okay, well I'm on night shifts Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So I'll do me run on a Monday and Sunday, and then I'll have to do one in between. Yeah. Because I tried to do 3 week or whatever. Or like if you've set yourself a goal of right, okay, in between my shifts on Wednesday, I'm going to go for a run. So I'd set my alarm the same as you would if you were getting up at 5 a.m. or whatever. It's the same thing. Like you've still got to treat it as a normal day and like get up, get shit done before you go to work. But like I do completely relate to people on shift work and like doing nights because it is hard and like obviously your rhythms and everything are so messed up. But what I always say to like clients I have now who do shift work as well with regards to like fueling for your training and stuff, like just try and stick to a normal meal routine. So I'd take my tea in with me. So I'd have my tea at like 10 o'clock at night on a night shift, for example. I wouldn't really snack throughout the night. I'd have like a bit of fruit if I was hungry. I'd get home, I'd have my breakfast, then I'd go to bed, and then I'd have my lunch when I got up. Because people say, oh yeah, I never ever was one of those people that had to take away on shift. Like, I cannot
That is
comprehend
something
it.
that you hear all
It knocks
the
me
time.
sick. The thought of, like, they used to order in Chinese and Domino's at like 2 a.m. and I was like, "Ugh," like, no.
But really, that's not, I think people are doing that to try and get through the shift. Like, I had a little stint of doing night shifts when I worked in retail, and it was the same sort of thing, like pizzas and stuff like that. But it's like they're trying to do it to get through the night because they're hungry, but that is literally going to make you hit a brick wall. Like, if you start eating shit in the middle of the night and then you go out of your normal, like, eating routine, that's not going to help, like, your energy levels. It's not going to, like, help how you're feeling in shifts. Like, I think your advice over shift, that's what the advice that I give to clients who do shifts, like,
Just
based off what you said.
isn't it?
Yeah, and like, just because it's different doesn't mean it needs to be like so challenging. Like, it's just spreading those meals out in a different way and still eating the same food.
Yeah,
because I think that's what people get confused about. They're like, well, what do I eat? And it's like, well, just eat the same. Yeah, eat the same. When you get in from work, eat your breakfast.
Yeah.
And that was one thing. Like, Alison does night shifts. She's a midwife, isn't she? And that was one thing that I said to her. I was like, take your breakfast to bed when you get in and eat your breakfast. Like, rather than going straight to sleep.
Time as well. Yeah. Like, I live with my mum and dad. Did I? Yeah, I did. When I was a midwife, so like, I used to come home and like my mum and dad would be getting ready for work, and I'd sit on the sofa with me like porridge or whatever, and I'd just have half an hour to an hour to wind down. But I always made sure I was in bed by 9:15.
Yeah.
But then I was a shit sleeper as well, so I can relate to that with shift workers, because some of my mates would be like, oh, I slept till 5:30 and I've come into work, but that's longer than what I sleep in a normal like routine anyway. So like, people go, oh, I had to sleep till 5, 6 o'clock, and use that as an excuse to not go on a walk, not go to the gym.
Yeah.
But you've just got to set those boundaries.
Knock them out. Give them a 12-hour shift.
Yeah. They're in the carb comas. But you just got to try and keep your routine as normal as possible. And also, like, I keep talking about nights, but long days, obviously you're working 7:30 till 8 o'clock at night. I was anyway in Ormskirk. And like, some people would go to the gym after work, but for me, I was too wiped out. So you tend to do 3 or 4 long days in a week. So I just make sure that I trained on the days that I wasn't in work.
Yeah.
Because that is a bit harder when you're on the days, but I feel like nights you can fit a bit more in between.
I think the key thing with all of this that you're saying, and this is what we all say every single day to all of our clients, is like, think forward. Stop like living your life in chaos and just dealing with things when it comes. Like,
things don't happen by accident.
No, like, you're not going to accidentally find the time or energy to go to the gym. You're not going to accidentally eat healthy meals. Stuff like that doesn't just happen. No. You have to intentionally be like, right, this is when I'm going to eat, and then stick to it. Or this is when I'm going to train, and then stick to it. But it doesn't matter what your life looks like, what your shifts are like. You always have to do that.
Isn't it?
Yeah, and like, we live by our Google calendars. I was speaking to Sarah. Sarah's on Google Calendar now.
Oh yeah,
yeah, she's migrated.
You've got off
Google.
the other one that you've on.
She was on a work one.
I had to use that because I still have
love
legal
it.
clients.
Do you know what, when I shared on my story of the week on my Instagram, so many people replied going, this is amazing. And also everyone was like, how fucking busy is your week? But to me, that's like a normal week.
Yeah.
But to a lot of people,
well, that goes to show that we're not just
exactly.
people who sit around in the gym all day or sit on our laptops all day. Like, we are
posing on Zoom.
Yeah. And like, I think as well, like, because we put an Instagram post up every day, everyone's like, oh, they must have time. And it's like,
we have to do that.
That takes 10 minutes of our day, everything else. And
just
it's
also playing on camera all day.
It's also work. Like, that's our
that's part of it, isn't
it? But yeah, I think like definitely planning in advance is for everyone. When Emma told me to live my life by Google Calendar, I was like, you have saved my life, because every Sunday I sit there and I'm like, this is when I'm going to train, this is when I'm going to walk, everything goes in there, all my appointments, everything. And then I'm just like, this is easy. All I need to do, it's all planned out. Like, calm,
you just need to show up.
Yeah, calm, logical Hayley, put this plan in place. And then chaotic Monday to Friday Hayley just has to follow it.
Yeah.
Obviously, if stuff changes, like, you know, sometimes shit happens. Like, you might get something might come up with work, or you might have a last minute appointment or whatever. Things might change, but it's not the end of the world. You just adjust and you move on. And if you miss a workout, don't cry about it. Just do your next one or pick it up when you can. What would you say, Sarah, would be some helpful tips for you, like for someone with a demanding career like law?
I used to find that the good thing is, when you're working in like an office, you're generally not expected to be available until usually around 9. Usually you tend to find, especially with corporate professionals, they work late rather than early. So I always found it easier to train in the morning. I understand, like, I didn't have young kids or anything to look after. So if you've got young kids, it might not work for you, but you've just got to look at your day and work out when is no one going to need me for literally half an hour, 45 minutes. And I found the 6 a.m. work for me. I didn't want to get up at 5 o'clock, didn't do it for the love of it.
Who does?
But I knew that it wouldn't happen. I knew that throughout the day something would go in my diary, or there'd be 4 o'clock and someone would say, can we just jump on a quick Teams call? I knew that wasn't going to be quick. It was going to be 2 hours or something, and then I'd be absolutely wiped out. So for me, it was like, what's realistic as well. Some people are like night owls, aren't they? So some people prefer training at night, but you've got to block the time out and be realistic with it as well. I always say there's no point planning your week if you know full well that that's not going to work. I used to find that finding a time, and also the other thing I used to do was I would sometimes just block it out in my diary and I'd go to the gym. And I always remember a client saying to me, well, what's going to happen in an hour because you're not at your desk or you don't pick up my call for an hour? I can ring people back. Especially now, people working from home as well, it's a little bit easier if they can use a lunch hour. Usually kids are in school or childcare or something. So use your lunch hour as much as you can. Like, train for half of it, have half an hour to just sit or get out for a walk. Like, I had 2 years where I was in course every day. We had a 2-year hearing in the middle of Birchwood. We didn't have a fridge in the room. I couldn't train before because I had to leave to get to Birchwood like at such an early time. I had to be there for 8:30 each morning. So I had to...
Birchwood's like Warrington way. So it's like, it's not even a fast journey. It's like you get stuck in all of the traffic. It's a nightmare. You may as well be driving to Manchester.
It's a long journey. And then, so I'd have to train at night, which isn't ideal for me. But I used to take my gym stuff to court with me every day. And every day I'd get changed.
Snarl in the bag. You're like, I don't want to fucking go.
But I didn't used to go home first. So I'd go straight from Birchwood to the gym and then I'd go home because I knew if I went home, I wasn't coming back out again. So it's learning your own habits, I think. Like, I knew my own behaviour. I knew what I would and wouldn't do.
I think the important thing from what you said there that I think a lot of people need to remember is we have to fit it in, and it might not be at a time that we enjoy. So like, I was speaking to Sarah in the car and I was like, my favourite time to train is 8 o'clock, but I'm lucky right now my schedule allows that, but it hasn't for the last 10 years. Do you know what I mean? It's only that now I can do that sometimes. Like, so you're going to have to realise that you might have to train at 7 p.m. when you'd rather be at home on the couch. You might have to drag your bum out of bed at 5 o'clock when you'd rather be in bed, and that means that you have to go to sleep earlier. If you have goals, if you want to improve your health, look great, feel great, there has to be little sacrifices that have got to be made. And
you never regret it either, do you? When you
not
feel good,
bad. And it's also like with the early mornings and with the evenings, we're very adaptable creatures. Like, human beings adapt to what we make ourselves adapt to. So if we start getting up at 5 o'clock, we're going to hate it. It's going to feel like hell for the first couple of weeks. Then after that, like, we probably all just naturally wake up that time now, even though we don't want to, but we do. And like,
I love the days you can melt back over.
And I used to go to the gym at 8 p.m. when I was a student.
I used to go to like 8 p.m. classes on a Monday every week at the Meadows, a HIIT class. I couldn't do anything fucking worse now.
Same, I used to go at 8 p.m. Like now but my schedule was different because I was like, I used to get up later, go to uni later, come home, go to the gym. And so everything was later, and I've shifted it early. So this is what I don't really like about the idea of being a morning person and being a night owl. It's like, well,
you can adapt if you have to.
We are naturally definitely inclined in a certain way, but you can adapt and you can adjust to the routine that you set for yourself. And it feels like shit to start off with 100%. And those first few workouts at 6 o'clock in the morning will probably feel horrible, but like you do get used to them. So I think that's like quite important. And you did also mention as well, like, we don't have kids, so obviously,
you have to factor in people have got different things going on in their life,
different lives. But what I would say is home workouts. You can do a home. The amount of, especially in lockdown, everyone was posting pictures of their kids while they were doing their workouts. Even now, you know, I've got like an online community. People will send pictures of their toddler on the mat. I had to stop and start, but we did it and all of that. And you can make it happen,
Yeah.
and you're setting a really good example by doing it at home. Like, even though that's not ideal, even though you'd rather be in the gym and you'd rather not be
Like have an hour to yourself.
pestered,
Yeah.
you know, for food and snacks and the iPad,
Yeah.
you'd rather not be pestered, but you got to make it happen when it's going to happen, because
Yeah.
no one else is going to do it for you. And are you just going to like surrender to your difficult circumstances and then become someone who you're not happy with?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that when I was working, so my last job when I was working in the GMC required a lot of travel. And I know you did a lot,
Yeah.
you've done a lot of travel. And that's one thing that for a lot of my clients, they find hard to navigate.
Yeah, it's difficult.
So we'd like travel to an event, and I used to have to host all of the assessors. I was like the organizer of it. So every single night, sometimes we'd be away 5 nights, and every single night you'd have to take them for tea. Tea always included wine.
Always.
I don't think they're allowed to do that anymore. But when I
think it's
worked
good.
there, you were allowed to. So it always included that. And, you know, when you went for a meal, the company were paying for it. So it was like, you know, starters, mains,
Yeah.
desserts.
Oh,
it
yeah.
was, and
Shots.
then, yeah,
Free-for-all, isn't it? Yeah.
none of them ever actually ended up wild. So I was really quite sensible with it, because I was in me health mind then. But I noticed when I first moved to that job, I really, really struggled, because I'd wake up every morning and there was a buffet breakfast. It was bed and breakfast everywhere we were. And I'd be like, oh my gosh,
So
these
hard.
sausages are
3
stunning.
courses.
Yeah,
So
I was
hard.
literally having a full English, and then I'd have, I'm going to have some pastries. And then during the assessment, during the event, there was always a table of biscuits, pastries, and then for lunch you got like
They'd bring
some
sandwiches in and all of
Yeah.
that.
so it
It's like the
was
Costco pot of vibes,
constantly
isn't
food. It was literally constantly food, and it would be 5 days at a time, once or twice a month. And like I really struggled at first, because I was like, oh
It's
my,
hard.
I was finding it hard to train, and I was also finding it hard to manage the food. So like, obviously I know you've done bits of traveling and stuff.
Yeah.
So I know how I navigated that, and I'll talk through that. But what did you specifically do? Because I know you've given
Yeah.
us good ideas
How
on this
I
before.
dealt with it previous, like in recent years, I've learned that that was happening, because I put a buffet breakfast in front of me and I'm in heaven. Like 8 hours sleep and a buffet breakfast, and I'm a happy girl. Do you know?
I
But
felt like I was living in luxury. Like
Oh.
I was like a little holiday, and
Yeah.
that's what me and Sarah spoke about before. It's like
It's like
it was-
holiday mode.
We went into holiday mode
Yeah.
when we were traveling for work, and then I had to be like,
I
I'm
have to remind
actually
me.
not on
I
holiday.
used to
Yeah.
remind myself
Yeah.
I was working.
Yeah,
So
I'm
there's
here for
2
work.
different mindsets. So where I could as well, I got into the habit of booking like a studio, like in a part hotel, so that I could cook. So I had like a kitchen, and then I didn't have the excuse that I had to eat out all the time.
See, I wish I had have thought
Yeah,
of that,
but I
because
didn't do
never
that
entered
years
my
ago.
mind.
That's like
a new thing.
yeah, like I did that in say the last 5 years or so. And obviously you haven't always got the control over where you stay.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people, a lot of clients of mine where they're told where they're staying. This is the hotel that's being provided and that's where you're staying. But if you do have control, then take it.
Yeah.
And try and remember that you're just living your life in a different location like you normally would.
Yeah.
And then you can still go home at the week. Because the other thing is, I'd find if I was away all week for work, say I had a trial or something, and I was like eating shite all week, when I'd get home, I'd be like, oh, that week's over. I need to celebrate now.
And
so
you
then
wanna
I'd go
spend time
nuts
with
all
Jed
yeah.
and- yeah.
So then I'd go nuts all weekend to thank myself for the
Treat
hard
yourself
work.
to a meal and a glass of
Like,
wine
yeah,
or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I got into the mindset where I'm at work through the week, and then when I get home, then I've still got the flexibility at the weekend.
Yeah.
It's hard though. I mean, it's not easy.
It's a mindset shift for
Yeah.
sure. Like I was like, I kind of just had this realization. I was like, you're not exercising during this
No.
time. You're not making time for walks, and your food is just like out of control.
Yeah.
But I realized, you can actually handle
Yeah.
all of this is you're doing. Like
Yeah.
you're actually in a lot of control. Like you have
Got
a
more
lot of control
than
over
you
the
think you'd have,
situation.
yeah.
It's like focus on what you can do rather than what you can't do.
Yeah,
And that.
yeah.
I've got quite a few, obviously I've never worked away, but I've got quite a few online clients who do. And like one of the girls, she goes to Edinburgh quite a lot with work and stuff, and she always Googles a hotel. So she, like, if she has control over where she books, she'll find one that's close to like a Pure Gym or Anytime Fitness.
Or one
like,
with its own gym.
Yeah. I think it was a couple of weeks ago, she went to Edinburgh and she went to Pure Gym 2 mornings on the run. she used to look at, like, as you were saying, like alcohols every night kind of thing. But she was like, no, I don't want to drink every night. She was away for 3 nights. One of the nights was like one of the girls' birthdays or something. They were going to that Six by Nico. So she was like, that's the night I'm going to indulge. I'm going to have a few glasses of wine, a meal. But the other nights I'm not going to drink. And another one client is a male actually. And he went on a massive conference for 5 days a couple of weeks ago. And he was like, oh, well, we normally drink every night. And I was like, but you don't have to though. No. And he was like, I know, but they'll all probably like have something to say.
Boring one as well.
Yeah,
it's more the peer pressure.
100%.
But he came home and he was dead proud. They actually didn't drink as much as they normally would. He made better choices with his alcohol and stuff. And like he felt empowered and good after it. But it's a common theme, isn't it? Like, oh, well, they'll all call me boring, so I've just got to smash the wine.
Well,
but you
this
do.
is the thing.
Just take it on the chin.
We live in such a mad world where, like, if you're making healthy choices, you're the weird one. And I definitely had that. So I was always somebody who said yes to a drink. So it was weird when I started saying no, and that's like with my family as well as like with friends and with colleagues. But it's like uncomfortable at first, and then you just get over it. Like I, instead of explaining, oh, I just want to be healthy or I'm trying to lose weight, you don't talk about that. It's just, I don't feel like
just
drinking.
Say no.
If you just say, I don't feel like it, everyone leaves you alone.
We feel like we have to justify everything, don't we? But you don't.
You don't actually have to give your real reason.
Yeah.
You can just say, I just don't fancy it. And then everybody just leaves you.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you're like, oh no, I'm trying to lose weight. You don't need to lose weight.
God, never say that.
Oh, you're not getting a dessert now.
Yeah.
And then it just becomes a topic of conversation, and it's just like, why did I even bring that up? Oh, you're fine. It's like, well, I just want to feel decent.
Yeah.
Those tips are literally what I did. So I always eventually booked a hotel with a gym. I remember staying in this stunning spa in like Wrightington. I was like, this is so good. Lovely. So I always booked a hotel with a gym. I never couldn't get one with a gym. It was one close. I made sure that was one close. I did have a terrible occasion once where I couldn't get into a pure gym in London at 5:30. I know. But I started to realise, because I was commuting to Manchester, I started to realise that when I was away, I had more time. So I was getting up, because when I was commuting to Manchester, there was no way I could do an early morning workout because I was leaving. I was getting like a 6:10 train. I used to have to train on my lunchtime or in the evenings. So I realised when I was working away, oh, this is actually giving me the gift of time. You don't need to be having lie-ins. You can get up at the same time as you always do at home. But this time you can get your workout in. And okay, you might not be able to do, you might not get a big lunch break, but of an evening, you can go for a walk before you all go for a meal. I also used to decide where we ate. So instead of always choosing like an Indian or an Italian, I was like choosing Greeks, Turkish, like trying to choose places where I could have something, you know, like that wasn't overly, And if I did choose somewhere like that, it would be, if I did choose somewhere that was more indulgent, I'd just try and choose more sensibly, so I wouldn't go mad with the starter, with the dessert. I'd be like, well, I'm in work, I'll just have a main meal. And then, you know, so I think like we do have a lot of control over the decisions that we make. But if you feel out of control, if you feel like your schedule owns you, that's how you'll act.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people as well where they're so overwhelmed that the thought of adding something else in.
It's overwhelmed.
Yeah.
It's not the actual schedule.
If you look though, there's usually stuff that doesn't need to be there that you can, you know, that needs to come out really.
Yeah.
Or stuff that they're spending too long on, like scrolling and stuff like that. Like, and we've all done, especially if your job's really stressful, there's nothing better than either watching something where you can literally be brain dead and just you don't need any for
Big Bang Theory,
or like just scrolling on social media because you can switch your brain off for a bit. It's like, and I would do that, you know, at one point.
But there's not scrolling and watching shit on telly doesn't actually give your brain a rest.
I know it doesn't.
Doing a workout, going for a walk, doing yoga, like there's
and you feel better for it.
Yeah.
But it's just so easy to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then half an hour's gone, and that half an hour you could have been doing something that was going to make you feel good.
Yeah.
Instead of just like wasting it.
Yeah. I also think that we should probably mention productivity and boundaries. So like boundaries, some people just do not have them for themselves. They think that their work should rule their life, and it's like, you actually can't be the best at your job if you have no boundaries. And everyone will just walk all over you, put too much pressure on you, and you have to have strong boundaries. And it is tough, especially if you've been someone who always says yes
Yeah.
or always is the one to take on more or always stay late. But you have to have those strong
Yeah.
boundaries to be able to be more productive at what you're doing day to day.
That's what I was like when I was a teacher. Like, I used to feel like guilty leaving at like 5:15 to get to my gym class, especially when I lived in London and stuff. And like the other teachers would be there till like 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. But that was pointless. And I used to think to myself, is this task that I'm doing now, can that wait till the morning? Or like, is it going to make a massive difference to my day tomorrow? No. Like, is anyone going to die if I don't mark those books? No. So just go. And like,
That's my motto, you know.
Yeah.
No one's going to die.
No,
I
it's
literally
true.
tell myself that every day,
Yeah.
and it gets me
and
through
I
life.
get like, especially in school and stuff, and obviously law, like whatever job you're in, like you get a lot of pressure put on you. But realistically, like I was just never a teacher who stayed behind. I never let teaching rule my life, and that always worked for me. And I still got my like sessions and
Still
stuff.
got stuff done, didn't you? I think the thing is with not holding boundaries, if you say to yourself, I'm going to stay till 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, you will make that task last until then. If you say, I have got to leave at 5 o'clock, then you'll get it done by then. And like my mum always says this, because my mum had like a busy, demanding job, but she had 2 kids and she was on her own. So she had to be home for a certain time. And she was like, I just smashed my work out and was really productive when I was in work. And then I went home and didn't think about it. Whereas there'd be people sat in the office until 8 o'clock at night, just like staring into thin air because they've completely fried
knackered
themselves
as
out.
well.
And so like Emma, to bring Emma up again, she always says like, if you allocate an hour to a task, then it'll get done.
Yeah.
But if you allocate 3 hours, it'll take 3 hours. And it's like, you're not setting yourself up to be productive if you've got like no boundaries.
I think as well, definitely speaking for the legal profession, any profession where you have a chargeable hours target though, you're actually rewarded
For staying.
for staying or for dragging a task out. So
But
dragging
that's just,
a 1 hour task out for 2 hours gets you paid for 2 hours rather than one. And albeit that's
I
not
literally want it. Next time I need a
I know.
lawyer, I'm going to sit next to them.
I would never do that. But you find as well that the productivity is down to begin with because they're shattered. So the task probably is taking them longer to do. But then you've also, certainly in traditional law firms, so the firm I was at for the last like 6 years of my career was amazing because none of us had targets. But in a traditional law firm, you have a billing target, a chargeable hours target, a recoverability target. So however long you spend on a matter, what's the percentage of time you're able to recover? So if you're targeted with 7 chargeable hours a day, and your bonus or promotion rides on that, you're going to stay late. And it promotes, like it actually rewards overworking. So it's not just the legal industry, like there's a lot of that goes on in finance and stuff. But if you're junior particularly and you're desperate to climb the ranks,
you're going to stay. Yeah. Yeah.
And I found as I got more and more senior, I started going, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah,
that's a very
I can't imagine that's going to last long because that is a very toxic environment.
It
I
is
just feel like the more,
and it's just
the more,
it's the accepted norm though.
Yeah,
if
but
you know
I
what
feel
I
like the
mean.
more younger people who
coming
in,
through.
I don't know whether that will stay around
know.
forever. But
I would
know
like
that
to
that
think
has been
not.
like that for years.
Yeah,
because a lot
and
of the girls,
it actually promotes and rewards overwork.
Yeah, which is just
people will literally
wrong.
run themselves into the ground for a 10 grand bonus.
I mean, 10
I wouldn't
grand.
mind a 10 grand bonus.
That's what I mean, though. But that's what
midnight.
But that's what
Girls, should
they'll
we
do.
put midnight sessions on?
Yeah, but that's what they'll do. They'll say, hit this target and you get a 10 grand bonus.
No,
so
that's so
you know,
grim.
10 grand's a lot of money.
Yeah, I do get that, but 10 grand or 10 extra years in your life.
Yeah.
I know.
I'd rather have the 10 extra years.
I know.
Yeah, it's true.
10 grand's only going to last you. I mean, you
That's
know,
me a
if you
month.
get given,
Depends who you are,
if
doesn't
you
it? I
get
was gonna
given
say.
10 grand, you might think that that's a life
Manchester
change.
shop, it's gone.
Depends what you
Well,
buy.
it's the thing, you might think that's a life changing amount of money, but when
It's
you
not.
actually get given that, that's just going to go.
Well, half of it goes on tax.
Well, there you go. And then, and so if you neglect your health, if you neglect your well-being for work, you'll work until you're too knackered to not work, and then you're shortening. The grim thing is you are shortening your life by not taking care of your health, and it's not about weight loss. It's not about like how you look. Health-wise, you're literally going to shorten the time that you've got.
I think most people do come to that realization. It's just
yeah.
you usually
When you're young.
when you're younger, you I think you're probably able to do a lot more when you're younger and you're hungry and
Oh
all
yeah,
that
well,
stuff.
the
You
energy.
start to resent it as you get it.
No, but
used
even
to be
I know,
oh,
like
no,
when
I'm
I
not
was,
staying.
when I started PTing and I was working full time and PTing as well, I think to myself now, how the fuck did I do that?
Yeah.
Like, was I on some like drugs that I never knew about? Because it was honestly the amount that I just don't know how I did it. I mean, I did have a full blown mental breakdown after about 12 months, but you know, I just
There you
couldn't.
go.
I just could not do
But
it.
it
now.
usually takes something like that
A
for you to
meltdown.
go, right.
Well,
that's usually what happens.
Yeah.
Some form of like
the
something
first
happens.
the first meltdown didn't do it for me. It took me about
took
me four. Do you know what? It took lockdown. It took lockdown for me to really be
I
like,
had a few.
yeah. Oh, there's just
I have them daily.
You still have them?
I think one final thing that I just wanted to mention that like in terms of productivity, in terms of like getting the most out of yourself in work, like the best productivity hack I think is taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
You know, if you're well rested, if you're well fueled, if you've exerted some energy, if you're taking care of yourself, if you're a healthy person, you can get more shit done and you can manage stress.
And the standard
way
of your
better.
work will be way better.
Yeah.
It won't be littered with mistakes because you're absolutely shattered.
Exactly. And like that meltdown that I had, that was because I had no time for myself. I wasn't feeding myself properly. I was only sleeping like 3 hours a night.
God,
Mental breakdown.
Yeah.
So like, but whereas now I've got more energy for things because I'm actually taking care of myself. And I think a lot of people they see like productivity as work and when really rest is needed for productivity
and quality.
Like,
I always would have preferred someone to spend longer doing like over a few days
and do it properly.
So I only get it once than to have to keep giving it back because
Amendments.
it's full of mistakes and because they're just like absolutely knackered while they're doing it.
Yeah. Anyone got anything else to add?
I don't think so.
I feel like we've covered
we've covered
most
a lot.
bases. I feel like we do as like collectively we've got some good work life experience.
Life experience.
Yeah. And I think people are surprised. They just think, oh, they're the PT. They don't get it. And like I have had people say, oh, no, but you don't get it. I'm like,
I do.
No, I
think I do.
Yeah.
I did live another life.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people do forget as well, like even when I was posting about the new Strong Mum Club intake and, you know, Hayley Shantler, is it Shantler?
Yes.
Like she replied to my story going, oh my God, were you a midwife? Like people forget and also don't know. So I think it's quite fascinating to people to know that like you're a lawyer, you like worked in like 9 to 5 jobs and everything and stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's it. It's just because, well, a lot of people who like come into our world in the last couple of months, we might not have spoke about it.
Yeah, they know us as PT. And that's it.
Know us as PT. I think that's all we've done. But now we're real humans.
Yes. I think that's it.
Yeah.